It is the 17th of October, and our reading in this day in Baptist history is the price of soul liberty. Our verse of scripture comes from Daniel chapter 3 and verse 17. If it be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thine hand, O King. The majority of the earliest colonies were founded with state-church relationships. When the law of the land was stringently enforced in those days, every member of the colony was coerced into participation with the state church. Even when any laxity was permitted and any semblance of liberty was granted, the minority dissenters were compelled to support the state church before caring for the costs incurred in their own worship. Failure to pay the state church tax caused the dissenters the loss of their property as it was sold at auction to satisfy the demands of the state church treasury. In their meeting on October 17, 1770, the Baptists of the Philadelphia Association read letters from churches in New England that apprised them of such unscrupulous taxation. The brethren from Ashfield, Massachusetts wrote explaining their dilemma. The Baptists had established the township, and all but 5 of the settling families were Baptists. Of course, a Baptist church had been constituted for their use, but when the 5 Presbyterian families decided to build a meeting house and hire a pastor, they taxed the Baptist families for the costs. The land had been newly settled, and the occupants had been driven from their plantations twice by Indian raids, and thus the Baptists pled poverty. The Baptists petitioned the General Court for relief, but the court ruled in favor of the Presbyterian congregation. The Baptists, being unable to pay, action was taken in April of 1770. One Baptist settler witnessed as they sold his house and garden. Others saw their young orchards, meadows, and cornfields sold out from under them. One of the purchasers was the Presbyterian minister. In all, the Baptists lost 395 acres of land that had been valued at 363 pounds. The total auction price was 35 pounds. Inasmuch as the Presbyterians still needed 200 pounds for their building, 2 additional auctions were scheduled to dispose of Baptist property. The Baptists continued to seek redress from the situation and finally were able to gain an audience before about 20 members of the assembly at Cambridge, Massachusetts, where they made formal complaint. In general, the Baptists were treated with contempt, and one of the assembly members responded, and I quote, "The General Assembly has a right to do what they did, and if you don't like it, you may quit the place." End of quote. The Warren Association of Baptist Churches called for a period of fasting and prayer for relief from the oppressive religious taxation. On October 4, 1770, Isaac Backus wrote in his diary, and I quote, "We kept as a fast on the account of our seeking relief from oppression, as was agreed at Bellingham, and to cry for deliverance to the nation." End of quote. Excuse me. Again, on October 7, 1770, mention was made of the situation. He wrote, and I quote, "Preached as usual. That night we had a collection of a little over £1 towards sending to England." End of quote. The reference here concerned the effort of the Warren Association of Baptist Churches to send Hezekiah Smith to England that he might petition the king against the continued harassment and persecution of the Baptists. This unconscionable taxation continued, however, for Isaac Backus again wrote in his diary on May 9, 1773, and I quote, "John Robbins, a constable of Chelmsford, seized Mr. Gershom Proctor, his son Henry Proctor, and Nathan Crosby for ministerial rates and carried them all to Concord jail." End of quote. It might well be expected that when Baptists finally gained the upper hand, they might have sought revenge. It is a tribute to our forebears to realize that this has not been the case. Henry C. Fish has well commented that Baptists have, and I quote, "ever practiced and effectually taught the great truth that as every man is held directly accountable to God for his religious faith and practice, he cannot, of right, be held accountable to any human tribunal, but on the other hand may claim the heaven-descended and inalienable right to be left free from all arrogance and every form of compulsion in the affairs of his soul. Baptists have ever practiced upon this doctrine, soul liberty and religious freedom, as well as proclaimed it. To its praise be it spoken. Search the annals of this denomination from the days of John the Baptist until now, and not one line of that history will be found blotted by the record of a deed of persecution. It is sometimes said that this people are illiberal, bigoted, exclusive, but surely no charge could be more unjust. Their whole history and their uniform bearings are proof to the contrary. End of quote. To God be the glory.